Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. My name is Don,
And my name is Jonathan.
and today we are going to talk about the 2025 film called One Battle After Another. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, among a host of other familiar faces. Particularly there's a group that there's a lot of like these sort of familiar background character types that show up. um we briefly touched a little on this last week, and where I said I had heard about it. It didn't seem to be a film that I thought I would like. And I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag right at the beginning. I was right. I didn't really like it very much. Uh, I think, aside from all the themes, and we'll get into that for sure,
Yeah.
I think it was about 40 minutes too long.
Yeah, I can agree with some of that
They
critique.
could have really tightened this story up and,
Yeah.
made it much more engaging. Without a drug in a lot of spots. That's a, you know, that's completely aside from the themes and the ideas in the film. And there were some things there that I did like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will say, um, you had mentioned, I don't think it was when we were recording, but you had mentioned last week that you felt like this film lampooned both sides.
Hmm. Yeah.
I can see that,
Yeah.
but I think it really went really hard on one side and a
Yes.
little softer on the other side, and kind of made the other side into the heroes. And we'll
Oh,
get
I
in. Okay,
that,
let's.
that I disagree with because I feel like he doesn't have a hero in here other than maybe Willa. Everybody else I feel like comes away pretty bad. So,
Oh, I mean, they come away as very awful human beings for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But the main characters that you're following in this storyline, Perfidia and Bob and
Yeah.
all, they're lifted up as your main protagonists. And it almost, well, okay, let's talk about the violence part of it. Okay,
Yeah.
because one of the things that you you
Yes.
you put in the notes, okay, was about, can violence be used for good, political violence.
Yeah.
I really have a hard time with that, and be
Yeah.
right up front. I don't understand it. I don't think it accomplishes anything.
I
And
agree
and
with
it was lifted up as, like this, we're revolutionaries, we're
you.
changing the
Well,
world. And
what I think was interesting, one of the things I think is interesting. First of all, Paul Thomas Anderson, some background to him is, I would gather he's probably progressive on the spectrum, um, and he is in a interracial family. His wife is African American. His kids obviously are mixed race, and
Mhm.
so I'm guessing you. I know I've experienced it. I'm guessing you've experienced it as a parent of a child of that's a child of color.
Mhm.
Sometimes you get some weird stuff from people. Uh, you are reminded that racism still is an issue for a lot more people than we would like to admit it is. Yeah,
Percent, yes.
yeah. And he's obviously working through some of that stuff.
Mhm.
To me, I thought was interesting. Maybe you get a sense of kind of what the revolutionaries, quote unquote, are fighting for, but there's never an articulation of their vision. It's kind of like we're just fighting because we're supposed to fight, and
Yeah.
and I felt like that was in there in part because he was critiquing the reality that conservatives and liberals sometimes fight just because we think we're supposed to.
Go with you on that. You know, to me, it was like they just seemed like we're just causing chaos for the sake of chaos.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and again, you also get some of the main characters on both sides that actually, uh, the mother of Willa, who's kind of the central figure of this movie, and her father that we find out later, Colonel Lockjaw is her father,
Hmm.
as Willa's father, and both her mother and her father are aroused by violence. They both are aroused by abuse of power. I mean, for lack of a
Yeah.
better term.
Yeah.
And again, to me, it's interesting he chooses people on both sides of the equation to have them addicted to power and addicted to violence.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I feel like that's part of the critique of the film. Of not that he clearly has a side. He's clearly more geared toward what we would see the progressive or the revolutionaries than he is the kind of the uh, government officials, if you want. He clearly is leaning toward their side, but it's interesting to me that he has deep character defects all around. Like they're just, it's like pass out like Tic Tacs. Everybody has serious issues.
Yeah. There are, I don't know if you can find a good person in this film. Maybe some of the high school kids when
I
Will is
feel
a
like maybe
teenager.
I feel like your best bet is Willa, but that's your best bet.
But
Um,
even at that, at the end, she's kind of in her mother's footsteps, you
yes,
know.
yeah,
So, um, one of the things that and I mentioned this in our conversation after you sent the notes. Um, I love this. There's this scene where so it's Bob and Perfidia, the Willa's mother, right? Um,
no,
are at
it's. Are you talking about his conversation with his mother-in-law? Or are you talking
yeah,
about?
his
Okay,
mother-in-law,
so
right?
it's not Perfidia. Perfidia's mom.
Right. Well, they go to the mother's house, the mother-in-law's, and she's had been
Yeah,
drinking while she was pregnant. She's out cold on the couch. Again, character defect, right?
yeah,
But okay. And the mother-in-law is talking to him, and I wrote the quote down. And she says to him, she's trying to convince him that like they're really not for each other.
yeah,
And she says she comes from a long line of revolutionaries, Bob. She's a runner. You're a rock.
yeah,
And that line really struck me because, okay, he's a rock for her running this, you know, revolutionary lifestyle, sure. But he's also the one staying at home taking care of the baby. I mean, he's a rock in that he is the foundation of that child's life. So it was an interesting, if you will, double entendre, uh, and I think there's conversation to be had about that,
yeah.
as an adult, as a parent, you know, like you want your kids to run, you want them to fly, you want them to go and do things, but yet you want to be their foundation as well. You want them to carry on your morality and your ideas and I don't know, it's just a really it was a really interesting way to put that statement. She's a runner, you're a rock.
Well, and what's interesting, I think you could make an argument that Bob had a bigger impact on Willa, and
Oh
Willa
yeah.
is like you said at the end of the movie. You can take it. I think it's a fair way to read it, where Willa's kind of jumping into the revolutionary life. Well, she's jumping in the revolutionary life not because of her impact her mom has had on her, but the impact her dad has had on her. So this rock, right, actually is the person that continues the revolutionary streak in Willa, which is it. Which again is interesting. I I kind of feel like, in a weird way, you could squint and read this movie as an interesting take on sometimes the best way to change the world is to raise kids, you know, and empower them to do it, you know. So,
I can see that. Um it was okay. I beat my pet horse to death. Uh, what do you got, John? What else do you want to talk about?
um, I don't know. I did feel like again, I think I didn't read the Pynchon novel. I probably never will. It's based on a Pynchon novel called Thomas Pynchon called Vineland, I believe.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know. I kept on thinking about, to me, the deep power of the civil rights movement was folks like Dr. King openly broke laws, but they broke laws with the idea that we're breaking these laws openly, so you will arrest us, so that we will undergird this idea that yes, we need laws, we just feel like these are immoral.
Hmm.
And to me, that was more effective than blowing things up because it's easy to make the violence become the point and not the issue you actually want to change.
Yeah. And, in a very real sense, what you are saying right now is exceptionally timely,
Yeah.
right? With what's going on in society, you're not. I mean, I understand people want to affect change. Immigration was one of the things you were talking about, one of the themes in this film, right? Particularly with Benicio del Toro's character. Um, and people want to affect change with that, and I understand. But if you are getting violent with the police or you are obstructing them, you're not helping your cause. You're making it worse.
I mean, one thing about political violence is it's very easy to turn it around on and make it be the thing you focus on and not the issue you want to actually change.
Right.
And again, it was actually used in savvy ways by the civil rights movement. King, we can question this. There's some issues with this, but he put younger people in the front of lines so that they would be attacked by fire hoses or they would be, barked out by dogs because he knew on TV the idea of seeing young people getting harassed would have an impact on people, you know, because again, the violence becomes the scary thing that we're all focused on. And so you can use it to undermine the other side. And that's what frustrates me about political violence is I feel like I can think of very few cases, maybe none, honestly, where it actually helps change the situation. And if the whole idea of what you're doing is trying to change the structure or trying to change the power dynamic, violence usually doesn't help you. It just doesn't.
Oh, because what it forces, particularly if your violence is against the authorities, what it forces is an opposite and often an amped up response.
Mhm.
You're not going to get, I think a lot of what's going on, for instance, in Minneapolis right now is that a lot of people they're out there cosplaying, like, oh well, the police can't hurt me, darling. Yes, they can.
Yes.
Yes, they can, and they're well within their rights to if you attack them. They're authorized to use lethal force. Don't, don't invoke them. You're asking for trouble.
I mean,
Um,
yeah. And to be honest, sometimes, let's be honest, there's violence and it's unwarranted,
Certainly.
and and I don't want to like dissect all of that because it's bigger issues than we could really cover in 30 minutes.
Right.
But
Sure.
I feel like in terms of protesters or in terms of um, political folks that really want revolution, usually violence backfires. It just usually does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so again, I feel like you can see that in a weird way in this movie. Um, and I don't know if he's trying to have that conversation, but to me, it was part of that um, part of the conversation of the movie, at least for me. What did you think? Because I don't know if you've gotten to this point, but now that we're doing this, I
Mhm.
watch a movie and I oftentimes go like, I wonder what Don would think. Like, and And one of the things I thought was interesting, and I actually probably wouldn't have brought it up unless I saw it. This is the second time I've watched this. Um, what do you think about the religious dimensions of this film?
I think that I think it's kind of used as a cudgel, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, the very obviously religious people in this film are also white nationalist racists,
Yeah, but at the
right?
same time, there's a group of revolutionaries that are hiding as nuns.
Oh, the nuns, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I never understood if they were nuns or not. So it was like this weird thing of
Yeah, nuns
again,
that grow marijuana.
yeah, and shoot things and prepare for a revolution. What was it called? The Sisters of the Blessed Beaver. I think it was. Yeah.
All right, and let's admit there were some things in this film that were just over the top funny.
There were a lot of things that were over the top funny, to be honest. There's clearly he injected a lot of this with humor.
I have regrets that I allowed my 13-year-old son to watch this film with me. Because when it was over, he said to me his favorite character in the film was, the one that was standing up on the counter when they were robbing the bank.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't say her name on this
yeah,
podcast,
yep, yep,
because we'll get an R rating,
yes,
okay? Um,
yeah, yeah. I found it interesting that the essentially the neo Nazis, for lack of a better term, uh,
right.
they decided to create what they called the Christmas Adventurers Club, and they said several times in a meeting, "Hail Saint Nick."
Nick.
And I thought to myself, uh, "You're aware that Saint Nick was from Turkey, right?" And he wasn't purebred white anything, right? Like you're aware of that. Um,
Yeah.
Again, it's interesting because it to me it speaks in a weird way. It speaks to probably something you struggle with. I struggle with too. How many Christians, quote unquote, I come across who actually don't know much about their faith or their tradition, but man, they love to wave the Christian flag. You know,
Yeah.
they love to wrap themselves in the accoutrements of Christianity
Yeah.
without actually knowing anything about Christianity. You know,
Yeah.
either way you want to pull this, um, I don't think you. I think it would be very difficult to really find good things grounded in the gospel that would tell you Jesus would support violence on either side of this equation, right?
I guarantee it. There's
You know,
nothing.
and so this idea that this idea that somehow there's a pure race, that somehow that like we need to separate people, like all of this stuff that both people in a weird way were kind of claiming as a religious thing, if you want.
Mhm.
Um, and you're like, man, you don't understand this faith tradition at all, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. I struggle with that with sometimes with folks. I, honestly, I would say right now I don't see it in the churches I serve. I think these, at least not overtly. I mean, these are just nice people. They really are. But yeah, it's out there. I
Yes.
mean, neither of us can deny that it is out there. And it's interesting because I think that it's out there on both sides of this discussion, progressive and conservative. I think it's out there on both sides. I really do. In that you have the ultra, if you will, the white nationalist, conservative types who are, all about the white folks, and then there's the ultra progressive, almost revolutionary types who have an outgroup preference for anybody but white people. It's like, okay, somebody pick a lane here, you know?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, and then probably the lead antagonist of the film is Colonel Lockjaw. And at one point he essentially to Willa, while he's planning on killing his daughter, I mean that's what he's
Hmm.
doing,
Hmm.
says to her on essentially he says honor your mother and father, or you should honor your mother and father, basically quoting the one of the
Scripture.
Ten Commandments, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you're trying to kill your daughter and you're literally having a conversation about that she should honor her parents at this very
Yeah,
moment.
but she had the perfect response. You're not my father. You, you know, even though Bob is not her genetic father, he's
Yeah.
been more of a father. And boy, did you not resonate with that as much as
Yes.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that powerful thing of the connection you can form with somebody that isn't your biological kid when you spend your life raising them. Yeah.
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 And I've got four of them, you
Yeah.
know. I've got four kids like that, the kids, my kids are my world, man. And no, they're not blood. And no, they're not all white. Um, but and I think I'm sorry, I'm tearing up a little bit here because it is that kind of thing that it hurts. It hurts to hear that sort of thing.
Yeah.
When I found out that in high school, my daughter felt like she was being harassed because she's black and
Yeah.
she was one of a very few black kids in the whole school. And she kept it to herself. She never made an issue of it. And it made me crazy when I heard it. Like, you don't even take the opportunity to know who this kid is, right?
Yeah.
Because she's sweet, she's smart, she's funny. Uh, Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no. I mean, I think we both probably have those stories of, people saying things or doing things where they're like, you can't possibly be this person's father. And you're like, I am. Like, um,
Yeah. Oh,
you
I could. There was a story once we were at a playground and she was just little
know,
and she's over playing on the monkey bars or the whatever, right? And I'm just sitting at a picnic table talking with my wife and somebody. No, my wife wasn't there. I was talking with somebody else. And and I hear this guy. Now there were some young black kids who were over on a basketball court over there, playing basketball. And I hear this guy yelling at my daughter. And I look up and it's like him and he's got a kid maybe a year younger than my daughter, little white boy, this white guy yelling at her. And I walked over and I said, "Is there a problem here?" Ah, there's just a little kid with her brothers and said, I'm sorry. I'm her father. Is there a problem here?
yeah,
And all of a sudden his demeanor changed, right? No, we're fine. Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
Walk away, man. Walk away.
Yeah, I had a similar thing where actually a group of parents thought I was trying to kidnap Jeremiah, and they pulled cars all around my car, so I couldn't get out because I had dropped him off. He had forgotten something. I was trying to get his attention. He never heard me, and then I got back in the car, and they literally like surrounded my vehicle, and they were going to call the cops because they thought I was kidnapping him. It was the only time I ever put up an angry post on Facebook. I've never done it since. I will never do it again. But I was just like so mad because I'm just
If
like,
that's if that's the only time you've ever put an angry post on Facebook, you are not a Philadelphia sports fan.
I say it quietly to myself.
Yeah, and I had yeah, we I mean I get it, people also want to be, they want to be nice, they want to there was a time when my wife had my daughter in a shopping cart. She was in a little seat, and they're walking around in the shopping center or in the grocery store, and they were in line. And this lady says to my wife, "Oh, she's so cute. She looks just like you." What?
Yeah.
Because there's no shared genetic. Okay, I get it. You're trying to be nice, lady, but really the better choice would just be
It's a cute
shut
kid.
up. Just don't talk.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're off on a tangent. What else do we want to talk about here?
Let me see here. What did let's see. What did you think about uh just kind of the idea of Willow when she has to kill the hitman and she seems to completely disassociate and almost kill Bob. And she screams at him, "Who are you?" And
Mm.
I don't know, that to me that was a really that whole for any of the problems I have with this movie, I don't think this is a bad movie, but I am kind of shocked it's front runner to win the best picture, to be honest. I think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's an amazing movie. So I'm just kind of, but the one scene where
Geez, Sinners was so much better than this.
she's going up and down the hills and they're racing, that he
Mhm.
did that amazingly well. That is one of
It's a good scene.
It's
Yeah.
a very good scene. And she embodies this fear and this disconnect and this it to me it was an interesting way of thinking about what she was going through outside that. Obviously it was traumatic to have to worry about being killed and then killing somebody
Hmm.
yourself. Sorry, spoiler alert. Um, but to me, it was also kind of a statement of maybe what she felt about her parents in that moment. Who are you guys? Who, she had been told her whole life that her mother was a hero. She finds out that her mother ratted on people and sent them all to prison. She doesn't know who her father is because he's been telling her different things about her mom. He's kind of been denying who he was, who she was. And in that moment, her scream of "Who are you?" felt bigger than just her being scared. It almost felt like a statement about the fact that sometimes we create these images around ourselves that aren't actually true, and then when the truth is exposed, we lose the ability to keep the connection with people in our lives.
See that. And I mean, I don't know if I could speak definitively on what the director or the writer intended there. That's the same, right?
Yeah,
Paul W. Anderson adapted it and directed it, right? Um, or Paul Thomas Anderson, sorry.
yeah,
Um, I don't know if I can speak directly to that, but it is an interesting thought because yes, there's that dissociative nature, right? Like you are in that traumatic moment, but I think there's also a bit of self-realization in that. Like, she's depended on her father to take care of her for 16 years, and now all of a sudden she got to fend for herself.
yeah,
And so, that might be a legitimate, two-tiered question, not just who are you, but who are you, you know? Um, it- yeah. It's interesting because I think that they resolve that particular conflict, they resolve it in the
yeah,
next scene,
yes,
right? Which if you want to talk about that, where you saw that, because I know you put it in the notes um, about the letter.
yeah. Well, again, it's Perfidia Beverly Hills, her mom, writes her a letter that I can't blanking on his name. All I can think of is his real name, Ghetto Pat, Bob.
Bob,
She she
Rocket Man.
yeah, she basically says to her, I pretended to be strong. This is her mom talking to Willow. I
Mhm.
pretended to be strong. Is it too late for us? And then she says, we failed changing the world. Maybe you'll get it right. And I thought it was really again, I kind of wonder if he's talking about this idea of changing the world can be more effectively done by raising great kids. Because, she her mother at the end of the movie, you see at the beginning of the movie, she literally accuses Bob of trying to keep her down, kind of using the patriarchy to make her a mom. And then he finally says, kind of, I think, to just kind of give up, he says, "Go do the revolution," and she walks out the door. And then at the end of the movie, we have this full circle where she's regretted the fact that she walked away from Willa, that she didn't raise her, that she wasn't active in her life. And then she goes, "The thing I really wanted and left you for, I wasn't able to accomplish. Maybe you can get it done." And it just made me wonder if there was a statement in there of maybe how we change the world is raise really good kids.
And you know what? I think that can be terribly effective. It absolutely can. I don't think I could agree with you more. I think that's, I don't know if that's exactly what the director is going for, but it certainly feels like that is something we can do, right? There's, maybe the biggest challenge, and I say this to my kids a lot, maybe the biggest challenge in your whole life is deciding what you can and you cannot control,
Yeah.
you know? And the bottom line is the only thing you really can control is yourself and how you respond.
Yep.
Um, so, and that's got to bring us to a close because we got to move on to the next film we're going to talk about.
Yep.
Now, I was thinking about this,
Okay.
um, and I know we kind of mutually agreed on this one. So I had a thought,
Yeah.
sort of a palate cleanse, if you will. No matter how you think of this film, if you have seen it, folks, you are entitled to however you think about it. Um, but maybe something that has a little bit more religious overtones, but is not in your face a religious film.
Okay.
Okay. And it goes back to, I think, 1991.
Okay.
What do you feel about watching The Matrix?
Oh, it's 99, but yeah.
Was it 99? Okay. It came out a little later than I thought. All right.
I actually in seminary, true story, in seminary there was in one of my classes was a Catholic priest who literally taught a class or taught a study at his parish about the Matrix. So,
Well, I have a colleague of ours in our conference, pretty sure, wrote a book
oh, good, cool.
about the Matrix and religion in the Matrix, and it's right there somewhere. I have it. Um, I've always found it a fascinating film when you talk about, yes, it's an action film. But it's so much about philosophy and religion that most people miss it. So I think it'd be fun to dig into it a little bit.
Sounds good.
All right. So then next week, friends, we will watch the 1999 film from the Wachowski brothers, starring Keanu Reeves, The Matrix. And until then, friends, keep on finding God in the dark. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Oh, hey, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate your support. And friends, if you find anything that's really wonderful or entertaining or helpful in your Christian walk, we want to encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. We publish every Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we hope that you continue to find these videos and these discussions entertaining and informative. Take care and God bless. Bye.